Hello everybody, I am back after basically like a week of no videos, but anyway, before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new. That being said, let's get into it. Not a whole lot to talk about this week. It's been kind of a crazy busy week for me. Obviously, I had 4th of July and some other stuff going on, so of course I was busy with it. And then the last few days at work and home life have just been kind of crazy, so that's why there hasn't been any videos out. But at the same time, outside of a little bit of drama, we haven't seen a whole lot of stuff going on in the NHL landscape. The two biggest things that I feel like are kind of dramatic are surrounding John Gibson and Vladimir Tarasenko. So with Gibson, essentially Frank Saravalli, a hockey writer that is, kind of broke some major stories in the NHL landscape, came out and said that John Gibson has played his last game with the Ducks. He's demanding a trade. He's not going to come back, blah, 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 blah. And then Gibson's agent basically comes out and says, "You're a liar. That is not true." Where Frank replies with, "No, I'm not wrong, and you're the liar, blah, blah, blah." I don't exactly know what's going on here. We know that Gibson probably is looking for a trade as this Anaheim team looks to probably miss the playoffs again this upcoming season. And Gibson probably wants to be on a better team. At this point, I really can't tell you, but what I can tell you is I don't understand why this thing is getting to be so dramatic here and why things have to get so messy. Does he really want out? Probably. Do I think that he's saying, "Oh, I'm not going to play another game with them"? I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I look at this team that lost 13 games in a row last year, and I imagine for a veteran guy that feels like maybe he's been kind of left to rot in a team that is not focused on winning now, he very well could feel like he's frustrated and got to get out. But at the same time, for him and his agent, they've got to be able to keep things shut down here. If Frank is telling the truth, then he's telling the truth. But at the same time, I also feel like he's a guy that, while he breaks stories, isn't very well liked by certain members of the NHL community because he breaks stories that either A, people don't want to hear, or B, it kind of takes the fun out of things. He was also the writer, if I'm not mistaken, that basically exposed all the picks for the expansion draft. Thank you, Frank, for ruining that event. I'm not going to say that I, hate Frank or anything like that. I do think that he does break some pretty big pieces of news. But for people that are trying to promote the expansion draft for the NHL, with it being in the infancy with its ESPN deal, that was not ideal. Now, I do agree that, writers are going to break stories, and that's the case, but yikes. This is just one of those things that I'm hoping it's not the case, just so maybe he can kind of keep things a little bit more clamped. But if it is, another big story broken by him, and we will see what happens there. Another big thing, of course, is the fact that Vladimir Tarasenko looked like he was signing with the Carolina Hurricanes, and that is being reported not to be the case anymore. He has fired his agent, got a new one, and that means that Carolina doesn't have him after looking like making a bunch of splurges in free agency, getting Orlov, getting Bunting. Tarasenko looked like he was going to be there as well. Now, it does not seem to be the case. I don't exactly know where he's going to go. It seems like that there are a flurry of teams interested in signing with him. And I kind of feel like at the same time you have to realize this is not the same guy from like 2015, 2016 or whatever. He's probably going to be a guy that will give you, time on the power play, a guy that will give you middle 6 minutes and help you out there. But I don't want people to think, oh, we are getting this absolute stud that's in his prime. I feel like shoulder injuries have really affected his career. And at this point, I think teams will also kind of look at him and say, we're not going to give him a big deal. We're not going to give him a very long deal if that's the case. So if your team's interested, don't expect them to sign him to like a 5-year deal or something like that. I just don't think that's going to be the case at this point in his career. But it is interesting where you have back-to-back things filled with drama and his agent getting fired. And for Carolina, maybe you feel like you missed out a little bit. I saw Canes fans were a little bit disappointed by the recent news, but is the case. That's life. But Carolina still looks like one of the best teams in the league that got aggressive in free agency as well. So don't expect them to be a bottom feeder. In fact, they'll probably compete for the division title in the Metro. And then finally, obviously free agency's over, the draft is over. What to expect for the remaining course? I'm probably just going to be doing stuff like, Champions Cup, where I go through each season in the NHL and who won the Stanley Cup that year, blah, 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 all those stories. People seem to like those, and we're going to try to actually get back to those before we have to focus on season previews at some point in August. I'm sure some other news will happen in that time, but as of right now, the hockey news is a little bit stale till probably again August, September rolls around, but we will be here. We will be pumping out videos, whatever those videos are. Champions Cup, definitely probably at least 1 or 2 of those a week, and then just whatever news is relevant as of right now. But anyway, what are your thoughts on recent news? Do you think that Gibson actually won't play another game for Anaheim? Do you think that's all true? Where do you think Vlad will go? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. You go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.